Hi, this is Lara from Forex Info USA with your free US dollar index Elliott wave analysis for the week ending the 12th of March. I'm doing this video a few hours now after New York has closed trading on Friday the 12th, so we'll have a look at the dollar movements for the week. Starting this analysis with a reminder, as always, of the bigger picture, and here's a chart going back just for the last 10 years. We had a three-wave movement up for A, followed by a three-wave movement down for B at cycle degree. This aqua is cycle degree, and that takes, usually, cycle degree waves take about 5 to 7 years. Because B ended below the start of A, this is called an expanded flat correction. And in an expanded flat correction, that calls for a C wave that is a long, strong wave and should end up substantially beyond the end of A, in this case about 122. What that means is in the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to see the dollar comfortably rise above 122 with corrections along the way. It's not going to just all be straight up, or as always, it's going to have corrections along the way. So we've got primary 1 and 2 complete, and we're in the very early stages of our primary third wave. Within a 5-wave impulse and Elliott wave, the third wave is the longest and strongest. Exactly as shown here. 1, 2, 3 is the longest and strongest wave. 4, 5. It has corrections on the way, but overall it usually moves the greatest distance and usually has the greatest momentum, and the central portion of it will be the steepest drop. So we're still yet to see that longest, strongest, steepest upwards movement from the dollar, and that's coming up towards the end of this year and early into next year, I expect. Taking you now to, before we go there, an upwards target for the end of this year and possibly early next year. If wave 3 equals price equality with wave 1 at primary degree, the dollar would end up around about 92.97. What's much more likely relationship between wave 3 and 1, however, is wave 3 being 1.618 the length of wave 1, which would take the dollar up to 104.58. Taking you now to a more recent chart, just looking at these recent dollar rises, where this blue 1 and 2 is this blue 1 and 2. And this is a chart I presented in my last analysis. And I had wave 3 ending up here. I had an alternate where it was ending down here, followed by a triangle scenario, and that's been invalidated by recent downwards movement. At this stage, I was expecting we were looking at an ABC, possibly ending there for our wave 4. However, recent strong downwards movement has invalidated this scenario. This ABC is still in place, but we're followed by another structure here as a second part of a combination. And here it is. So some change, and a change in degree is necessary if we're looking at a combination. So this is a regular flat correction, ABC, followed by X, followed by an ABC. And this may or may not be over. I'm not going to calculate a target on the upside for the shorter term for our fifth wave blue until I have a certainty as to where wave 4 blue ends. It's kind of difficult to calculate those upward targets if you don't know where you're starting from. This corrective movement is really nicely contained in this parallel trend channel. We can expect, we could see an overthrow at this end of the correction in the early part of next week. That is entirely possible. What's much more likely, though, is if it would come down to touch this lower trend line before bouncing right off again. A slim outlying possibility is that the dollar could be entering a triple 3 correction. We may have X up, and we may then turn around and have another triangle or a flat correction before this wave 4 blue is over. This is Elliott's channeling technique, these blue lines here drawn on this combination correction here, and I place a lot of weight on it because it works so well. I'm not going to call a final end to wave 4 blue until we see comfortable movement above this upper trend line of this parallel channel. So taking you now to an hourly chart where this C and Y and 4 is this C and Y and 4 down here, and here's our recent downwards movement. If this was an A, B, C, and because this certainly has a look of a 5-wave move, I expected we had perhaps the beginning of our 5th wave blew up here with a deep correction. However, it's reached below this point here comfortably now, so this can't be a 1, 2. Wave 2 cannot reach beyond the beginning of wave 1, so that's invalidated. So what we must be looking at is a regular flat A, B, C, followed by an X, followed by another regular flat A, B, C. It can't be an expanded flat because wave B does not end 105% beyond the beginning of A, and that's a rule for expanded flat corrections. So this must be a regular flat. Wave B actually ends here at 80.8, and wave A started at 80.84, actually just 0.04 above. So this can't be an expanded flat correction, although the length of wave C certainly does make it have that look. Either way, I expect that wave C is very likely to reach 1.618, the length of wave A. So I calculate we've got a little bit further to go down for the dollar, and a turning point likely at 79.62, or maybe a little lower, to touch this lower trend channel. Thereafter, that may be the end of wave 4 blue, and we could see a good strong 5 waves up for the dollar. I'm not going to be confident that this corrective movement is finally over until we have a break significantly to the upper side of this parallel trend channel. It's a very conservative way of looking at it, but that works. So perhaps a little bit more downwards movement for the dollar starting next week. Thereafter, we may see the beginning to wave 5 and next series of increases in the dollar, or we may see a few more days yet of corrective sideways movement. Either way, it should be over by the end of next week. That's all for me for the US dollar index analysis. If you would like Elliott wave analysis, a pure Elliott wave perspective for the euro dollar and or the pound dollar, you'll find it on my site. Thank you very much. I hope you're having an awesome weekend, and next week may all your trades be profitable.